Welcome to New England Lacrosse Journal's Chasing the Goal podcast, your destination for all things lacrosse. I'm your host, Kyle Devin. Alongside me, the man, the myth, the legend, Jack Piatelli. Jack, how we doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Great. We got our wardrobe changes in between podcasts. We're feeling good. We got a good guest here. We're going. It's a little D3 theme.
Yes.
And we're bringing on Nazareth head coach Rob Randall. Coach, how we doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well. It's hard to believe, Coach, that the holidays have come and gone, and we're right back at it with another season upon us. Time goes by very quickly, and I've known you for a while, and you've been at it a long time, Coach. How do you keep it going every year?
I think it's the nice weather that we have here in keeps me going.
You get a brand new pair of snow boots every winter.
Pretty much, yeah. We wear them out. For sure. Actually, half joking. The weather here has been great so far. I'm sure that when we start practice up next week, we're going to get hit with something. But it's been really good. Knock on wood.
And you have, facility-wise, you must have a good indoor facility for your teams to participate in the wintertime.
We do. We're really fortunate. We have an indoor turf field here that has been a huge blessing, a real difference maker for us. It's not a full field, but it's big enough. It's about 85 by 45 and certainly big enough for us to get a lot of stuff done when we need to, and in years past, when the weather's been bad, we've had to go off campus and find an indoor facility somewhere or in the area. And it's really nice for us to be able to just walk across the parking lot into our indoor facility and not worry about the elements.
I'm sure you, like me back in the day when we played, that we had a shovel in our hand and we had to shovel the turf field and we only could go outdoors. And I'll tell you, Springfield, Mass would always get hit. I don't know, that was like a pocket where we got hit with snow all the time. And obviously upstate New York, you're getting hit almost every single day. But you had to love the sport to shovel the field back in the day. And these kids have it pretty good now where the fields are plowed and they have the indoor facilities. But that's great that you're able to go inside.
Yeah, I can remember, going to the parking lots or being in the gym for an extended period of time. So, yeah, and our maintenance department does a great job of clearing the field, once they're done with clearing the campus. So we don't spend too many days indoors, but it certainly is a really nice option for us.
Coach, you're up there playing in the Empire 8. You've seen, a couple colleges come in and out of there recently. I think everyone's, thinking about RIT when they think about that. And now they're in a different conference. But, as that being part of your kind of makeup as Nazareth, you've had a fairly high profile for a Division III school in upstate New York. You're one of the top schools up there. What is your recruiting process like with kids out of upstate? Because all these upstate schools kind of compete against each other for kids, but out of state, how do you bring kids in? You got a lot of kids from Western Mass, Central Mass. What is your process like with that?
Yeah, well, let me be the first to tell you that this recruiting process, at least for us, has not gotten any easier over the years. It's a really tough challenge for us, no matter where we're recruiting, whether it's upstate New York, right here in Rochester, or in different regions of the country. And fortunately for us, the Massachusetts and the whole New England area, for that matter, has been very good to us for whatever reason. But I don't think we're doing anything different than what other schools are doing. We go out and we see these kids play at a variety of different tournaments throughout the course of the year, and they're playing on their club teams or sometimes playing on their high school teams, and we get up to the different events throughout New England, but also all over the country for that matter. And we see these kids and then we just kind of start the process with them. We reach out to them and introduce them to Nazareth, and certainly having some New England kids or having a New England flavor on our roster, I think helps to helps the continuity of that, or helps to continue to be able to gain interest from those kids up in the New England and Massachusetts areas.
You talk about the recruiting process is very difficult these days. What has changed since the days you started recruiting as a college coach?
Oh man, Jack,
You could go on and on.
where do I begin?
Right, right.
You know, the technology piece, I think, is the one piece. I mean, I can remember when I first started here, and you know, earlier in my career, even before I was here, um, as a head coach or an assistant coach, sending out letters, you know,
Right.
snail mail, and
Right. Yeah.
then you know, it was a longer process. There wasn't nearly as many schools as there are now in Division III, anyways. And you know, just trying to stay up with the technology piece, which for me, you know, is the biggest challenge that I have, because I am certainly not a technologically advanced individual or coach. So that's probably the biggest challenge. But you know, I mean, the kids are the kids. I don't think that's changed too much. And once you get them on campus and you show them around, that's a lot of the same stuff. But you know, there's so many schools, there's so many really quality schools out there nowadays, and there's a lot of young and really aggressive coaches, and we've seen at the Division III level a lot of schools that have, you know, not only one full-time assistant, but you know, a couple full-time assistants. So that's made it more challenging, you know, and you've seen so many schools get better at lacrosse because of that.
Coach, did you prefer that back in the day? I mean, I started coaching when kids were making CDs, right, and sending those in like little video CDs, and I remember that and being like, that was way better than what's got to be the recruiting race right now. Is that kind of? Did you think it was better for you, or are you kind of just adapted to this is how it's going to be, and you know I have to learn all these skills and apply them to build this team?
Well, you know, you're showing your age a little bit of talking about CDs or DVDs. I'm going to tell you, I can remember VHSs and those types of tapes that you had to actually get a tape from somebody. They had to send it, and then you had to, you know, put it in your machine to watch it. So is it better? I don't know. I mean, I think now it's certainly more efficient, but with the technology piece of things, you got to stay up on it, and you got to have, you know, or at least I have to have some young assistants that really know what the heck they're doing, because, you know, I struggle with email.
Right. You know, it's not funny. You mentioned, you know, snail mail, right? And I remember I got a few letters in the mail too, and very exciting to get a letter in the mail from a coach. But today, with social media and email and text messages, you know, the kids want instant answers. You know what I mean? Everything is at their fingertips. So I'll get a text from a player and said, "Oh, I sent a text or an email to Coach Rob Randall, and he hasn't gotten back to me. You know, I just sent it to him 15 minutes ago." Like, well, you know, he's probably got 150 emails in his inbox, and it's going to take him all week to get through it. So you got to just sit back and relax. And if he's interested, he'll get back to you. But I think the players and parents have lost their patience through this whole process because everything's right in their face.
There's no doubt about that. You know, I mean, we have, you know, we're pretty much onto our 25s, our juniors at this point. And we have a lot of juniors out there that are already hitting the panic button, you know, and
Right.
mom and dad are hitting the panic button, and they don't know what to do. And, you know, we're just like, we need to pump the brakes here a little bit, you know, and, so I totally understand what you're saying, and it's very accurate. I don't know that there's anything that we're going to do about it at this point, other than to just kind of talk families and kids off the cliff and let them know that we're interested in them, and you know, and there's a process to this. And you know, we try not to put too much pressure on kids, even seniors, as far as a timeline, because it's a huge decision on their part, and it's a decision that is going to have a far greater impact on them than it is on us. So we want, and it's also a very large investment on their part, probably the largest investment to date that they've had in their life. And, you know, we want to make sure if we're getting a kid that we're getting a kid for the right reason.
Yeah, it's interesting because My experience with this whole recruiting thing is not only the parents get very anxious and the players get very nervous and very concerned to get wrapped up in, I'm not getting recruited or I haven't committed yet and so on and so forth. I had a parent reach out to me and said, I'm going to have my son do this thing. He's an 8th grader because I was told he has to get exposure. And I said, you're absolutely nuts. You're going to spend, $800 to go to this event. You could get exposure. What kind of exposure? He's in the 8th grade. To your point, I mean, you've got 25s and you've got 24s. There are programs that are still looking for 24s, and obviously Division I programs that are still reaching out to us looking for 25s and 24s. So it's a long process, and parents really have to take a step back, and your kids have to focus on getting good grades, being a good kid, being a good teammate, and let the process just take care of itself and enjoy high school. A lot of kids aren't enjoying high school these days. It's all about getting recruited. Well, go out and play and have some fun, right? I mean, you were a 3-sport athlete, and I know, your son was a multi-sport athlete. Less and less players are playing more sports. They want to focus just on lacrosse. I'm going on a tangent here, Coach, but
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in multi-sport athletes like you, and just letting the process take care of itself.
No doubt about it. And I think one of the many issues that we have, or at least that I've experienced, is that because one kid from their school team or their club team has been recruited or is committed, early, maybe September of their junior year, I think it makes the other families hit the panic button,
Yeah.
and it's just not a healthy situation. The recruiting situation has gotten better in the last couple of years, a little bit better, but it's still it's tough, and families have to realize that just because Billy Smith is being recruited one way, that you may not get recruited that same way. There's many different ways to be recruited, and Jack Emmer once mentioned that to me, that there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, and that's so true, and that holds true in the recruiting world. And yeah, we still have a couple spots for 24s at this point, so I don't know like how to fix it per se, but we try to just let the families know and the kids know that if we're interested in them, they're going to know about it.
Yeah. Well, the best thing that happened to the recruiting process is the no communication until the fall of their junior year, September 1, back when they were recruiting 8th graders, was just ridiculous. But the like parents, if their neighbor's kid gets recruited or gets committed, it's like everybody wants to stay up with the Joneses, right? Now, this kid goes to this camp. Oh, I got to send my kid to this camp. Or, he's going here, he's doing this, he's doing that. I got to do this. And then all of a sudden, oh, Johnny got recruited to Naz. Oh, I got to get my son recruited if he got recruited. And a lot of times they'll jump on the first opportunity too, which is a major mistake, instead of, taking a step back and is that a good fit? If not a good fit, because I've known a number of players who their number one mistake was going to a place that was the number one commitment. Not that obviously a lot of places are the right, but you may have more options as well.
No doubt. And I think the longer you wait, if you're a quality student athlete, and you express interest, and you're responsible in your own recruitment, which I think is a big piece of this as well. If you're all of those things, then you're going to find a spot,
Right.
and there's a lot of really good spots out there, and there's a spot for everybody if you really want to pursue it, and that's what we try to explain to families. So, yeah, it's definitely, and as an example, we recently got a young man that's coming to Nazareth next year, who had committed earlier in the summer. Actually, he went to a visit to a college, and thought that he loved it there, and then back, that and committed to them back in, I don't know, late summer, and then came around to us back in like November or maybe late October, and realized that he made a mistake in committing to that institution a little too early when he shouldn't have. And now we're going to get him, so it's those are types of things that happen quite a bit, I think.
Yeah, and you see more of that now too. Is like, I'm not a big fan. Like when my kids committed to a school, I said, you committed to the school, you're not going to decommit and go somewhere else. That's, you got to make sure when you make this decision, it's the right decision, right? And that's our point, is you got to wait until October, November, when all the cards are dealt, and then you can decide on where you want to go.
Yeah. And there's some value to kind of letting the dust settle.
Yes.
Yeah, Coach, I'm an assistant coach at a very small school in New Hampshire, and we had a kid, kind of get recruited. I kind of pushed him to go to a school that I thought he would do well at, but then he didn't end up staying there after his first semester. And I feel personally bad about that, because I tried to, help him through that process, but also I couldn't help but think, like, what could I have done to make him feel more welcome there? Like, what could I, and it's not my school, right? Like, he's already gone. I'm curious, what is your process with incoming freshmen who might have, like, again, in that case, it was a kid from a small town going to a larger school, didn't really fit in with the, not culture of the program, but like just the whole move, right? The whole place. What is your process for helping kids like that? Does that happen with you? Do you deal with that a lot? Do you find?
Not a lot, but it does happen from time to time, for sure. Whether it's, kids leaving or kids coming in, for that matter. It's not an easy situation, but sometimes kids are homesick, or sometimes their priorities change, or they didn't know exactly what they were getting in with lacrosse wise. And, maybe they got a roommate situation that's not healthy. I mean, it's a variety of reasons, so we want to get to the bottom of it and at least communicate to them, so that we can try to teach them and educate them so that it doesn't happen again.
Right.
Yeah. And, just in the recruiting thing you guys were talking about, I want to touch on one thing. It's not just, it's the kids too. Cause like I have a kid who will text me on my team. He'll text me random schools. He'll be like, what do you think about this school? I'm like, why are you texting me about this school? And then I'll open up his club program's Instagram and I'll click on it and be like, this guy just committed and it's the same school he just texted me about, like, and I'm like, first of all, you have a Google machine. You can find out by yourself, but also, like, if all you do is compare yourself to the people around you, you're just going to rob yourself of the joy of playing. Right. Like, I feel like that's like one message, like just talking about recruiting. We talk about it all the time in this podcast. We talk about it in our regular lives. We talk about it before we sat down and even started recruiting. I think the most important thing, and Coach, you touched on it, is like, you can't change all these things. There are things that you won't have control over, but the one thing you do have control over is your own enjoyment of something. And like, obviously you put the work in, but if you are just doing it to get into a school that you think is what you want, instead of exploring all the options around you, you're doing yourself a disservice, right?
There's no doubt about it, and kids have to learn to make this decision based on the big picture, and lacrosse is a certainly a significant part of it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think the value of being a lacrosse player here, or probably anywhere for that matter at the college level, is, one of the biggest pieces of their education that they're going to find.
Sure.
But, you want to be happy in that environment, whether it's a large school or a small school or a rural school or an urban school or whatever it might be. There's so many different options. And I think many times, as you're alluding to, that the kids will make the decision for the wrong reasons.
Coach, you've been at NAS for a number of years now, and what is it about NAS that you love, and what is it about the players that go to NAS? Why do they? What's their interest in the school? What attracts them to NAS?
Well, let me start with the first piece. What I love about Nazareth is it's a small knit community. It's in a beautiful area. We have a beautiful campus, some great academic buildings, and some great athletic facilities, and very much a safe environment. Very much a residential type area. A smaller school, smaller private, and obviously the lacrosse piece is awesome. But I think the thing that I like most about Nazareth is just the people. I mean, you surround yourself with good people, and ultimately positive things are going to happen. So I think that's the thing that I like the most about Nazareth. Um, why somebody would consider Nazareth, or end up enrolling at Nazareth, I think they would like the setting that we're in. As I mentioned, I think kids that are looking for a smaller environment to go to college in, smaller classrooms. We don't have any lecture halls. All the classes are taught in a classroom setting. Obviously playing competitive lacrosse is a big piece to it. Our facilities are a big piece to it. The location, the general Rochester area, I think, is a nice area to be in for college. I think there's a lot of other schools in the area that, keeps this area kind of vibrant and young. Um, you know, I mentioned the facilities. I think the academic programs that are available to the kids, and certainly the science programs that we have, and some of the health and human services programs like physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech, um, nursing, and then we have all the other programs, the School of Management, the School of Business and Leadership, your social sciences and liberal arts and things like that. So I think it's a combination of things, but certainly the Health and Human Services school has helped for us to attract kids that are interested in the sciences or in the medical profession of some sort.
Yeah, nursing has become very popular with men and women. Do you have any players in the nursing program at NAS?
We do. We have a handful, actually,
Yeah.
and they love it, and we've had a number of guys over the years that are nursing majors, and that are out in the hospitals and different facilities working as nurses, and you know there's a demand for a male nurse, and they make great livings.
The second annual New England Youth Lacrosse Convention returns to Gillette Stadium on Sunday, February 4th. This year's event is presented by the Boston Cannons and powered by Mass Youth Lacrosse. Over 40 presenters and 30 vendors covering all topics for the girls and boys youth game for town leaders, coaches, and parents. Visit mathyouthLax.org to purchase tickets. That site again, mathyouthLax.org. Once again this winter, Piatelli Lacrosse has a great way for you to stay in shape and play lacrosse this off-season. Starting in January, their indoor lacrosse program will take place at Four Kicks in Taunton. This program is open to youth and high school players of all ages, regardless of school or club affiliation. The up-tempo pace of indoor box lacrosse is an excellent way for players to learn to play faster and develop new skills that will make you more effective on the field come spring. Coaches will be provided for each game, and all players will take part in a mini clinic prior to their game to work on different box lacrosse skills. Make the most of your off-season and play some box lacrosse. For more information on Piatelli's Winter Box Lacrosse League, visit piatellilacrosse.com. That's Piatelli lacrosse.com.
One of the things about your school that I found out just kind of researching it going into this is you have a lot of linguistics programs. You have whole houses dedicated to, as Jack would love, the Casa Italiana. Got the
absolutely.
Italian house. You got the Maison Francais, the Casa Hispania, Trying out my accents here. You like it?
Very
You
good.
like it?
Well done.
Very good.
Well done.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. You did
Yeah,
good research.
Well, I went to Clark.
He didn't go to Springfield.
We have the Spanish house, the French house, the Italian house. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is great. I love that concept. I like it a lot.
Well, you just got back from Italy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, you got to learn somewhere. Maybe you go to NAS.
Yeah.
Pick something up. Coach, I think one of the things, Jack asked you what draws people to NAS and specifically the team. From what I hear, it's you. So I know a couple of people that have played for you, and I know a player on your team currently. And when I only hear good things about a coach, usually my first, because I'm a journalist, my first instinct is suspicion. But with you, I feel like you can't be working at a school this long and leading a program this long without having a good concept of what you need to do for these young men. And I think that that's one of the things that there are so many coaches across the country that are young, and then there are coaches that are experienced and have been one place for a very long time. And I always wonder why that is. And I think, I don't want to answer for you, but you're an alum and you get to coach at this place that you love, right? And Jack and I have talked about this on the podcast. God, there's nowhere else I'd rather coach than Clark University because I went there. There's nowhere you'd probably rather coach than Springfield, right?
Right.
There's great people there that are also alums of our programs that are leading them now and have been for a long time now for both of us. Bugby more than Cohen, obviously. But do you have any truth to that? Do you see anything in that? Is that something that contributes to your longevity with your program and your desire to keep coaching?
No, I mean, that's pretty humbling. I would say no. I think the longevity piece does help in some capacity because I think that proves there's stability. But honestly, it could be anybody. I'm not going to take that credit, and I don't know that that's deserved. So. We just try to create a great environment for these kids to be challenged on a daily basis and try to get the most out of them, and try to make them as tough as we possibly can make them. And that's kind of our theme and kind of our MO. And for most of them, it works. And for some, it doesn't.
Just kind of adding on to that, I don't know a ton about NAS. I know, like I said, I know players that have played there. Being part of the Empire 8, you're kind of, again, the beacon of upstate New York, right? As Rochester is I call it the apocalypse city, because if the apocalypse starts, it's starting in Rochester. It's just like my theory that I have. I've been there many times. The lacrosse DNA of that city is so ingrained from Box to all the schools that are around it. Do you think that brings more people in, because you're kind of one of the pillars of the lacrosse community in that area?
Well, I would say yes. I mean, we've been very fortunate to have a rich tradition of lacrosse here, but I think the city of Rochester, and that would include, some great high schools and youth programs for that matter. And there was a time, not anymore, but there was a time when we had two professional lacrosse teams here, with the Nighthawks and the Rattlers. And I don't know that there was too many cities in the country that could say that, and that was part of our recruiting piece as well. Yeah, I think anytime you have good lacrosse programs and good lacrosse culture in an area, it certainly can't hurt you.
Looking at your bio, Coach, I didn't realize that you started the program at Sacred Heart. It was Division II back then. Is that correct? What was that like?
That is correct. I'll try to give you the Reader's Digest.
So you did some coaching in New England. So you're sort of like a New England guy then.
Well, I'd love to be referred to as a New England guy. I was at Sacred Heart, and before that, I spent about a year and a half as a graduate assistant. Well,
At Army, right?
Going back even further, yeah, I can kind of get into all that. I worked for Al Brown at Alfred University, and as you guys know, Al is up in Rhode Island and has been there for I don't know how long,
Portsmouth Abbey.
Yeah. And, he had a lot of New England ties. And there was a time early in my coaching career where I would go up and I would work the New England Lacrosse Camp, which was at Northfield, Mount Herman,
Sure.
for a number of years. And, I was shell shocked to see the level of talent that was at that camp, of high school kids throughout New England. And then that kind of evolved into the New England 150, which with him and Billy Usey changed over, and Jerry Walsh changed over to the Williams College.
Right.
And then he's, since gone on and done other camps and other spots. But, so that kind of got me much more informed with New England. And then, long story short, we won the national championship here. I was an assistant in '92, and I found out about the Sacred Heart position that opened up, and they were starting lacrosse, and I was fortunate enough to get that position. And so, so I got a much more of a taste of New England and continued working some of those camps back in those early '90 years.
With Frenzy Lamb and Scotty Anderson and the old regime. God rest his soul, Frenzy Lamb.
Yeah, they were great people, and I got to know so many New England high school guys too.
Well, just so you know, if you live in the state, any state above Massachusetts, we don't count Connecticut as part of New England. just a little.
Yeah. It was a great spot for me to start my head coaching career. It was awesome, but I also knew that, it was probably not where I was going to spend the rest of my life.
Very good. Coach, COVID was obviously a very challenging time for all of us, but it also gave coaches like yourself an opportunity, like the Wesleyan coach, to coach their own son. So tell us about that. And your son had a fantastic year too when he played for you. I think he had like 55 goals. So what was that like for you to coach your own son? And I've talked to your son, and he didn't have a comment on it. I'm just kidding.
I'm sure my comments are going to be different than his. In fact, I'd guarantee that. No, yeah, I mean, he had an awesome experience with Dan Shamati and the University of Richmond, and he was there for 4 years and loved it. And then, after 4 years were up, he graduated and definitely wanted to play again somewhere. And he was certainly entertaining the idea of going back to Richmond, but they didn't necessarily have the graduate program that he was looking for. He could have very easily done it, but and we have a master's here in business, a couple different types of masters in business programs here. And so he ended up enrolling here and got his master's degree in 1 year. And it's not something that I've really thought too much about, but when all this is over and done with, it'll probably be like one of the things that I cherish the most.
Yeah.
For to be able to coach your own kid. I'm not sure that there's really anything better than that,
Right. Especially at that level, Coach, especially at that level.
Yeah. I mean, it was, obviously we're very serious, but I think he came from a program that, where lacrosse was essentially a job.
Right.
And it wasn't as much like that here as it was for him at Richmond. And he, don't get me wrong, he absolutely loved his coaches and the whole Richmond experience. But it was a tremendous experience for me and to be able to have that experience and the whole negative side of COVID with everything that went down with it. That is certainly one of the positives that came out of it for us.
Yeah, it's great, Coach. The hockey scene in upstate is very, very strong as well. And I used to run into you at hockey rinks. Your son is a 98 like my son John is. So when my son played against your son in hockey back in the youth days, your son was a very good hockey player. Did he have an interest in playing hockey in college as well?
He never really wanted to pursue it. It was pretty much lacrosse the whole way. He has, since continue to skate and play in some men's leagues and things like that. But, you know, as you know, Jack, hockey's a different animal.
Yes, it is.
And, you know, for him to have pursued hockey, I think he could have, but, you know, his junior and senior seasons of high school, he was playing, as you know, like a split season with travel hockey in the fall and then, or the late summer and fall, and then high school hockey season, and then back to travel in late January, February, or whenever it was, and then got into lacrosse. And he understood that if he wanted to pursue hockey, he was going to have to, you know, pursue juniors or go to prep school or a combination of both. And he wasn't really too excited about doing that.
Yeah, Brett, your son made the right decision because these athletes, I had a nephew who played a year juniors, went to prep school. So he was, I think, 21, 22, going into his freshman year to play Division III hockey. I mean, he had a good run, but, you know, hopefully lacrosse never gets to that where, you know, we get a lot of kids are reclassifying, you know, they're playing down.
Dude, they're already doing that.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they are.
Yeah.
But so I guess in a sense they are, but it's not.
It's for a different reason.
But it's not 2 years. You know, in order to play college hockey today, you got to play juniors. So unless you're, you know, a phenom, there aren't too many phenoms, you know, but most kids will have to go play junior or go to prep school. And, you know, you do have lacrosse players that go an extra year to get bigger, stronger, fast, whatever, academically, the whole 9 yards. But hopefully it doesn't go where these kids are coming in and they're 21, 22 years old.
Yeah. And I can remember, you know, back when I was in high school, kids were going directly to college to play hockey.
Yes.
You know, and so I don't know like how hockey got to that point. And I agree with you. I wouldn't want to go there from a recruitment standpoint with lacrosse, but I will say that we do get a lot of combo kids, hockey, lacrosse kids. We've had a number of kids that have played both, and our hockey coach is great about, you know, allowing one of their kids to play lacrosse, you know, and the beauty of that, as you know, those hockey kids, for the most part, are pretty tough.
Yes.
And so we love having those combo kids of hockey and lacrosse, and we're at a school that's small enough where they can have the luxury of being a dual sport athlete.
Wow. That's very interesting that you have athletes on your campus that play two sports today. Cause that's pretty impressive because you don't see it very often.
No, you don't. And it's one of the beauties, at least for me, of, you know, having hockey here.
Coach, last season you went 10-9, but 5-2 in the conference. You lost to Alfred, then avenged it in the semis. And it seems like St. John Fisher is that other kind of boogeyman up there. When did that rivalry really develop? Because I have friends from Rochester, and one of them went to Naz, and one of them went to St. John Fisher, and they don't talk about it. So it's got to be pretty intense if they're not going to even talk about it, right?
Rivalry between the schools, you know, we're only a mile apart.
Right.
So the rivalry amongst the schools has always been there. You know, from a lacrosse standpoint, it hasn't always been there. I would say within the last 10 years, it's picked it up quite a bit. And, you know, they've done a really nice job over there. And, you know, right now they're the team to beat in the conference. And, you know, that's our challenge, you know, each and every day, you know, so we just try to keep doing what we're doing. And, you know, we know that at the end of the day, they're going to be one of the schools that we're going to have to play in the playoffs that, we're going to be challenged with for sure.
Coach, what are your goals going into 2024? Obviously, win the conference, get the AQ, get that nice NCAA tournament run, obviously. But what are some other kind of goals that you have for this team and your senior class coming in?
Well, I will say that I really like our group right now, but I don't think there's a coach in the country that would tell you they don't like their group this time of year. You know, so it's a really easy time to love your group.
Right.
But I do think that we have some talent. I do think that we have some hard workers. I do think that we have some tough kids on our team. Um, our goal is for our guys to get along really well with each other, and be great teammates, and for us to be really hard to play against, win or lose. So those are kind of our immediate goals. I'm not going to get into wins and losses. We want each kid to develop, and we want to challenge each kid to the best of our ability and get the most out of them. But it's really about, being great teammates, building our culture, and being really hard to play against.
And I know last year you brought in a huge freshman class for most programs. I think it was 20 freshmen you brought in this year. Now they're all sophomores. A lot of them got some playing time. I think you guys might be one of those like sleeper teams that just kind of comes out of the north part of upstate, and it's like, oh, Nas, I don't want to play them now.
I don't know. We'll see where the chips fall. But we try to take it one at a time. And I know that sounds very cliche-ish, but I couldn't say where we're going to be at the end of the year. But I do like this group, and you're right. We do have a lot of sophomores. I mean, this is a sophomore team I don't want to say team, but we have a lot of sophomores that got a lot of playing experience as freshmen, and some great kids out of New England, that are in that conversation.
That's nice to have 20 players come in and contribute right away as freshmen. Why did you have 20 recruits? That's got to be an unusual number for you to bring in 20 players every year. I mean, you had some great luck with that group.
Yeah. Honestly, Jack, I don't know that there's a rhyme or reason to this recruitment process. I mean, I've tried to figure out over the years and do certain well, and not focus on other areas, and it's just there's no like right or wrong way that I found. And
Sure.
it's just kind of ironic that that large group showed up that particular year. And we got some great kids from New England, but we also got some great local kids. We've got some great kids out of the Syracuse area, Long Island, so I don't know if kids saw it maybe as an opportunity to play. Kids were coming off of the COVID situation, and they wanted to have a really good playing experience, and maybe they saw an opportunity there. But I can't really say. I mean, typically for us, we would bring in 10, 12 kids in a recruitment class, and sometimes it turns into 17 or 18, and sometimes it's 7 or 8. And like this past year, we have a little bit smaller class, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know if kids really examine rosters and look at that, or if it's the conversations that we have with these families that let them know we think there's going to be a nice opportunity. Any kid that comes into our office, though, we tell them we think that we're going to provide you with a really nice opportunity. We don't want to recruit kids that we don't think can play here early on in their career.
Right. That makes a lot of sense, Coach. You're a member of the Rochester chapter, Hall of Fame chapter, lacrosse chapter. Congratulations on your induction there. But I got to ask you: is there a committee in the lacrosse world that you're not on? Whether it's the rules committee or this committee or the coaches association committee, where do you find all this time to be on all these committees? I get some questions on the rules committee, but you really have put your time in it and been a great ambassador for the game.
I think it's really, really, really important for people to give back to the game, like you guys are doing. And quite honestly, I don't feel like I do enough of it. But yeah, I've been on championships committees and on the rules committee on a couple different occasions.
All-American committee.
Yeah. I mean, they're just, it's fun. I mean, I enjoy it, and it's a great way to meet people, and it's a great way to learn, and, I tell you, I've met some really great people along the way, not just on the committees, but in everything that we do. And, it's been awesome. I'm really, really, one of the things I'll probably look back on and be most proud of is from a rules committee standpoint. I was the chair of the rules committee when We changed the face-off situation, the grip. We brought the dive back, and then probably the most important advent to our game, at least to this point, has been the shot clock.
Yeah.
Those were all things that I feel really good about. I think the game is in a really good spot right now, and I think that our committee at that time really did a great job of bringing those rules to the forefront.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, Kyle and I talk about it all the time. I mean, the game was getting stagnant. You know, it was sort of a bore to watch. You know, everybody was doing the same thing, slowing the game down and putting the shot clock in. It's just such a more exciting game, and it gives your defense an opportunity to make a real stop, right? But now, are you still on the committee? And in terms of any new rules that they're discussing to making any changes going forward? I know there's a little discussion on the face-off, but anything that do you mind
I'm no longer on the committee, so
Okay.
I don't have the
Insight.
Yeah, to a lot of that stuff. I mean, I think it's a lot of the same stuff that comes up. I know that there's been a major push with safety and the helmets coming off and things like that. And there's, it seems like every year there's talk about the face-off.
Right.
Well, there's some talk I know about the shot clock time potentially changing. But that's all I know at this point. And that by no means are any of those things going to be real changes down the road. I have no idea.
Controversial take. They should bring back touch it in.
Yeah, well, all right, well.
I caught it's only because I'm a high school coach that I caught myself doing it when I was watching college games. I was like, why isn't he touch it in? I'm screaming at the TV, and I'm like, oh yeah, they don't have to touch it in. That's right.
So
I like it though, because especially at the end of the game, I think it's important at the end of the game when you touch it and you don't take it out.
No, I agree.
But like that.
would you still have the touch when you're man down and it releases the penalty?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that, Rob?
Oh my God.
Yeah,
When you were man down, if you could get it in the box on the offensive end, you step in the box and the penalty's released. That was I like that rule.
Yeah.
Again,
You're going back a few years.
Oh, I am. I know.
It's just fouling, though.
I'm gonna be 61, Rob. So
Yeah. I'm not far behind you.
You're an 88 grad. I'm an 86 grad. So
yes. So Kyle, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you.
I know it was a dumb take.
I love the shot clock, and I think it's been a great addition to our game. And I personally, I think that every high school team should be playing with a shot clock, because if they're going to move on and they're going to be playing with a shot clock in college, and you go to some of these tournaments in the summertime and they're not playing with a shot clock, and it's as you mentioned, Jack, it's a very different game.
Very different game. Yep. In Massachusetts, the private sector schools have the shot clock. Public still doesn't have it. And it's a bore to watch. It really is. I mean, the shot clock forces players to really develop their skill sets too, because it's a faster game. You got to move the ball. You got to move the ball up the field quicker, faster, and therefore you got to have the skill set to get the ball up the field and push the ball. And if you don't have the skill set to do that, then you're at a disadvantage.
No doubt. I was given a presentation over at Fairport High School last week, and we got talking. It was a presentation on transition, and one of the reasons that we have to try and play fast is because of the shot clock.
Right.
And I think it's really exciting, and kids are going to make a ton of mistakes with it, and we just have to live with it as long.
Yeah, but they're going to learn. They're going to learn. They're going to get better because of it. So. Coach, thanks so much. It's already been almost 48 minutes. You've done a great job. Really want to thank you for joining Kyle and I today. And you open up against Springfield College. Take it easy on them, okay?
Yeah, we know what we're in for with that. It's always a great opening game for us. I want to say we've been doing it for about 20 years. And I'll tell you what, those kids you talk about tough, they're tough and they're athletic. And it's a great first game for us, and we know that we're going to have our hands full. So
let's hope you beat him by more than 2 this year.
we want to go up there and compete. That's for sure. So, but I appreciate you guys having me on. It's a true honor.
Thanks so much, Coach. Honor to have you on as well.
Yeah, great to meet you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Take care.
And thanks again for listening to New England Lacrosse Journal's Chasing the Goal podcast. For Jack Piatelli, I'm Kyle Devitt. See you next time.